Technology has always been a part of my life and my business as well. So I've been having my own consultancy business for 8, 9 years, focused primarily upon technology, training, implementing, and so on. I'm an extreme typical example of the Danish system. So the idea of inclusion, the idea of unity, togetherness, and so on is quite a fundamental base of my understanding of the society as a whole. Part of our faculties, they have really grasped it, such as in fact my own faculty, the branding faculty, and other faculties, they are struggling a bit how to deal with it. For instance, the more creative faculties. We have to find out what the students' role are going to be in the future and how the students is going to operate within the educational system, because the challenge in our situation is that we could just say, okay, go ahead, use all the AI you can, but basically the most important thing we are supposed to provide for our students is a critical analytical skill.
Should leaders start thinking about AI?
They should think upon it both as a tool and a strategy. The word strategy doesn't sit comfortable in my head because it quite often just become words. So strategies has to be ways to see the world or how we operate. What's important is to make strategy a culture. But obviously the management should have intentions, and the intentions is...
Hello to everyone. In the last conversation with Dana Williams, we went deeper into personal branding, the identity gap, and what it really means to move from visibility to credibility. In this episode, though, we take the next step. We move into the intersection between AI, education, and leadership, not as a abstract concept, but as a real forces that are already reshaping how we create value and build knowledge and make decisions. So to do so, I have a really special guest today, which is René Larsen. Hello, René.
Hello, Mireia.
I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, René, what has shaped the way you see work and value the way you work today, actually?
I guess I'm an extreme typical example of the Danish system, right? We are, whatever our political disagreements, however we politically disagree, we all agree anyways, because we're all some aspect of social democrats. So the idea of inclusion, the idea of unity, togetherness, and so on is quite a fundamental base of my understanding of the society as a whole.
Mm.
So that's for sure what's made me the one I am. And then it might be as well that I'm coming from not rural but fairly rural part of Jutland in Denmark, where we are basically a bit timid, right? Or not timid, that might not be
Reserved,
yeah,
maybe?
yeah, a bit reserved, and then we are quite grounded as well.
Mm.
So
Well, actually, this is one among other qualities that I do like because I do like living in Denmark. There is this high range of privacy, and that it's also directly connected to respect, self-respect, and respect towards others, which I enjoy it. I like it. I love it. Can you say something about you, René? What are you doing right now? Because I know, I'm well aware, because I know you. You were my teacher at VIA University in Denmark, in Herning. But I know that you are doing so many things.
right now, obviously, if we are at least looking upon my professional side of what I'm doing, then then obviously I'm teaching still at VA University College, where I'm teaching in the branding department, where I'm having more or less the academic angle. Is not necessarily so that I'm the best one creating real branding experiences. I'm not the best in Adobe, or in fact, I'm for sure not the best in Adobe. But my main interest is within a bit more scientific approach, the theoretical or theory of science approach. For instance, as we're going to speak about today, AI, I'm quite vested into what AI does to us, what AI does to the businesses, what AI do to education as well. So I'm having this theoretical lens in my work. So that's what I'm doing at my prime job. And then besides that, I'm running a quite nice business where we are doing AI training because that's one of my claims that we need to educate ourselves
I
to
agree.
responsibly
Thank you,
use
René.
AI.
Yes, yes,
So
indeed.
yeah, so in fact, we are having a quite large training business where we're doing on live training. Um, so real persons, but online. And we're having it a 6 weeks flow because we don't think hit and run sessions are the way to do it. So so that's what we're doing. And such as, for instance, next week, I guess, I'm having a colleague having training for me as we speak right now. Next Tuesday, we are starting another two group. So it's filling quite some time as well.
So René, it's also for internationals, right? As far as I remember, as I recall, isn't it? Or
Uh,
only for Danish
it
people doing that?
it has been right now. We switched and said, okay, we are not able to cope. Um, we are only three persons, and
I
we
know the
should have the
feeling.
time. Yeah.
Mm.
So we have focused upon the Danish market as it is now. Another thing is then that one of my colleagues, Lars Heislund, he's having an extremely international profile. So he's doing training globally, in fact, and AI training as well globally.
Okay. So again, I return to what you just mentioned earlier, René. You often connect theory with the real world application, mostly as the teacher, again, as you just mentioned. Where does that mindset come from?
Um, Firstly, it's a given. Because since the university I'm teaching at is an applied science with focus upon applied, so it's all about application, then we need to help the students understand how what we teach them can be used in a real life context. So it's basically our students are supposed to go out in the organizations, in the businesses, in the, so to speak, real life, and make real changes, make real solutions. On the contrary to traditional universities, where they often, not always for sure, but often can just find out about something. Obviously, our students are supposed to find out, but they are basically supposed to be able to solve something. So that's for one thing why I think it's relevant because it's a given. But the second factor is that I think that real understanding appears when you can see what's it all about, what it creates, what it does to the industries, for instance.
I
So
agree.
the idea of seeing what it ends up with and what it can do for somebody else is important.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. So, at what point did AI become something you felt you needed to take seriously in your work, in your job, René?
Um, my story, uh, going back, is that I'm 58 years old now. So I'm one of these gray-haired people or blokes, specifically, which have been drawn into AI. But in my situation, if I'm going back, then when I did my first master thesis in finance, in fact, in I guess it was in 1993, so quite some years ago, right? But in those days, in fact, my master thesis was focused upon AI, and basically the title
Wow.
was "How can AI be used for pricing derivatives?" But that was in the days where you had to build a model by yourself. So we had one of the first Macintosh computers, and where we had to program it so it could analyze our data, which we had flown in from Chicago Board of Trade on such a floppy disk, and things
Wow.
was different those days. But yeah, in the 90s, I was interested in AI, and then technology has always been a part of my life and my business as well. So I've been having my own consultancy business for 8, 9 years, where we were up to 5 people, which was in focused primarily upon technology, training, implementing, and so on. And yeah, in fact, I've been working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, heading a national unit focusing upon e-trade. But IT has always been a major thing for me. And then this AI in 2022, in the autumn 2022, when ChatGPT came with, when OpenAI came
Well,
with
high speed
ChatGPT,
with a
yeah,
high speed.
yeah, it totally changed the market. And then I could see, okay, now we are having another wave, which is really, really relevant, because obviously we have the internet, but for sure the AI wave is equivalent as important. So I could, it was so obvious to see that it would change everything, the way we do business, the way we do teaching, the two dominant areas in my focus, right?
Well, since you have mentioned a tiny bit also previously about teaching and education, because we will also talk about this tiny bit. Again, you were my teacher, so I deeply, with such an honor, remember you in particular, because you have had, and I'm sure you will still have, this approach, as I mentioned earlier, that is really enlightening, from theory to practice, tangible ideas become real. And I do remember you so very well, so much, and with the huge force because of that. If you remember, I was very active also during the courses because I just loved it on how you actually, your approach, how you were teaching. But we have had actually, this is my main question right now, because I remember that we were actually the first class that we had to learn how to reference AI during an assignment or a thesis. Anything changed? Everyone was
Yeah.
so confused about how to reference connected to education. Nobody had that knowledge about how to do it.
Yeah. Fortunately, that part is settled by now.
Okay.
Um, what we haven't settled, because what we're doing right now is basically, and everybody is in that situation right now, as we are now, we paddle. We just paddle to survive. What's the waves, because it's just huge. It's a
Yeah.
tsunami, right? Which is
Yeah, exactly. I
hitting us,
agree.
and we're just paddling to survive and find out how to cope. But we are very much focused upon, for instance, how are we supposed to do teaching? How are we supposed to implement it in our teaching? And that's where we can see for sure some part of our faculties, they have really grasped it, such as, in fact, my own faculty, the branding faculty, and other faculties, they are struggling a bit how to deal with it. For instance, the more creative faculties.
Exactly.
So we teaching wise, I guess at least in our situation, it's okay. Obviously, it can always be better. It can always be optimized and so on. But my my colleagues are quite vested into AI, and they understand it and they can use it and so on. So teaching wise, it's okay. But then obviously we have, and that's just a major thing. We have to find out what the students' role are going to be in the future and how the students is going to operate within the educational system. I guess it's fairly evident out in the businesses, because they're just going to apply
By
AI.
now, at least to a certain degree, yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So
no.
because the challenge in our situation is that we could just say, okay, go ahead, use all the AI you can. But basically, the most important thing we are supposed, at least that's on my opinion, we are supposed to provide for our students is a critical analytical skill. So we need to make sure that our students are able to reflect upon the output. They are supposed to identify what's the input supposed to be, and so on. So the critical thinking capabilities is for sure important. And if that's the skill we would like to provide them, since we are an educational institution, we have to find out how we evaluate it, right? So in the old days, writing a report, defending a report, or perhaps just writing it, and then it's going to be graded. That's not the future, right? Because we can always make AI write it. So we need to have oral exams to a great extent. And we have to adapt, finding out, okay, if we can use the AI as our personal assistant, as our co-writer, what is it we are going to examine then? Is it, yeah. So that's where the main challenge is right now, and that's something we are working quite intensively with in our situation in this spring, where we're having a group of researchers and teachers which is involved in that part.
Oh, okay. So, literally, like in a tangible way, have you seen at least some small steps towards this process, or not yet?
Oh, for sure we have. For sure we
Okay.
have. Because what we are doing now is that, in fact, we are even having a new system which is discussing plagiarism, even though we need, because that's just the first step, because the plagiarism system now is equipped in a way, so we are trying to find those which having a illegitimate use of AI. But that's not where we want to end up, because we for sure want the students to use the AI, but we just need to make sure that we are able to have a examination system which grade them then based upon their ability to use AI, and not creating the AI output. If you can read the difference, because if we don't do anything, then we just create the AI output. And what we have to do in the future, that's at least my opinion, is we have to create the ability to deal with AI.
So, let's go back to our main subject. What actually separates organizations that truly benefit from AI from those that don't?
I guess, as far as I can see it, um, obviously we are, in my private business, we're having tons of private companies and public organizations and so on, which we are training and which we're involved with doing strategy development and so on. And I guess the first and quite noticeable thing I can see is that the companies which, and it doesn't have to be with us, it hasn't has to be an external company or anything like that, but the companies which help guiding their employees, the companies which help the employees to get started, to get the analytical skills to work with it, and so on, for sure. So those which help the employees, that's the first group. And then we're having the group which say, okay, we would like it to live on the individual laptops. We need to have the users use it when they're writing mails, when they're writing reports, when they're, whatever they're doing, resumes, whatever. We need our employees to use it. And basically, starting from a very, very low scale level, on a laptop level, I see quite a lot of those companies success. And then obviously we are having the companies which is doing large scale investments in new software. And I don't mean ChatGPT or Copilot or anything like that, but companies, organizations, it might be within our healthcare system, where they are having AI aided cancer detection systems, right?
Yeah, I've heard about that as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we could have it in the same way, AI accounting system, uh, and and those type of software quite often works as well. My observation is, though, that some companies have too high expectations, right? So my recommendation is always to start small, start trying to find out, start with your employees, make them use AI, and then stepwise you can grow into full-blown solutions. For instance, automatically accounting systems, right? Um, but the ones which I for sure see fail, that's the ones which just, for instance, by ChatGPT or Copilot to all the employees and then do nothing. Another thing is that it's illegal if you're in EU, because you have to fulfill the EU Act, where you have to supply some sort of training or guidance to your employees if they're supposed to use AI. But the companies which is just handing out the software and then nothing, they don't get any benefit out of it.
I apologize to interrupt you, Rene, but I actually heard and read a lot of articles, etc., documents about this. And I do believe that currently, at least in this moment, nowadays, it's missing really. There is a really huge lack of training, really training, as I just said earlier, a second ago, for these employees, like starting with the basic steps, not just assuming or expecting to just know everything like right away, all the software AI tools that they are out there right now, because there are so many. And as you just again mentioned earlier, the flow is so fast, really fast, that it's almost impossible to keep like with the flow, because it's raising and it's always coming out something new, which is like takes more time to deep dive into it, because it takes time. It's not that you are gonna learn everything in 1 day or in 1 hour.
And then for sure it depends upon your tasks at work, right? Because you can have a job where you're very much into very strict systems,
Mm-hmm.
where most of the things is just basically tapping things into the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And in that situation, AI and ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever, is barely is any help, right? But for those which is having a bit more diverse task in front of the computer, AI for sure can help. And one of the main, or at least that's what I see, one of the main benefits of having training, or one of the main purposes of having training, is to understand and have this AI first approach.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt that whichever almost task I've got an AI first approach. My first thought is always, how can I do that, this, and understood with AI, right? Even such as today, I'm a ChatGPT user as for now. It might be that I'm going to change within the next few months, but as now, I've been dealing with ChatGPT for the last years, right? So ChatGPT, due to its memory capabilities, know me, who I am. I got projects, I got whatever, GPTs. Okay, let me drop it into ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and ask it, okay, based upon my, my capabilities, who I am, what I prompt you about, in which direction do you think this conversation is going to go? Is there any specific areas which you think I should perhaps think a bit upon specifically? Because, obviously there's some of the questions which I'm able to wing, just, okay, I know that by heart, or I,
Mm-hmm.
I, it's something I've thought about and something I'm where I've got my own position, right? And
Mhm.
other questions might be something where I have to say, okay, how do I really see this? And yeah, to AI, a simple task, but to me, quite a cognitive task.
Yeah.
So I'm always having an AI first approach,
Mhm.
and that's what I think. Um, yeah, quite some companies they lack when they don't get trained.
Yeah, I also believe that. I noticed as well. Yeah, true. So, at this point, how should leaders start thinking about AI? So, as a tool, a strategy, or something else?
I, they should think upon it both as a tool and a strategy. If they just use it as a tool without any, basically, when we have the strategy, then I'm a bit hands off guy, or hands on, sorry, because I the word strategy doesn't sit comfortable in my head. Because it quite often just become words. It's just ideas. And employees have to remember phrases and such stuff. And in my opinion, it's not extremely valuable. So strategies has to be ways to see the world or how we operate. So writing all these documents quite often proves very little value. What's important is to make strategy a culture. And
That's a nice question.
obviously,
Thank you,
yeah,
René. Yeah, I like it.
yeah, and obviously, as a leader, we need to understand and define. And if we need to do it in writing, be so. That's totally okay. But as a company, and in fact, I think it's okay to have some writing, but quite often the processes become far too complicated and so on. But that's another path. But obviously, the management should have intentions, and the intentions is the strategy. They should discuss what is it we would like to achieve, how would we like to achieve it, and then obviously they should communicate it and simply provide the tools as well. Right? But you need to know which direction you're going to go into using AI. And that's basically the strategy. But spend the time finding out what you would like to do and communicate it instead of spending the time writing it. At least that's my advice.
Mhm. So, what changes when AI becomes part of our everyday decision making? Because we kind of achieved that point, to be honest. Not only from a business perspective, but literally in our everyday life. It's here. It's already happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I guess we're coming back to the critical thinking aspect.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's something which I've been extremely focused upon. Just writing an article about it because Nikolai Slotkramer, as you know, which has been your teacher as well, I
Yeah,
guess,
we love.
um, he originally developed a model called the AI rocket,
Oh yeah,
which is
remember. Yeah,
yeah,
he talked about it through.
yeah. And we've been refining it a bit, and yeah, we've been writing an article about it. And basically, what we're saying is there's certain capabilities which in the future becomes extremely important. Firstly, we have to define what is it we would like to achieve. So we have to be really, really skilled at framing problems, right? What we're trying to do with students, making them make research questions. So
Mhm.
we need to be able to define, okay, what's the problem or what's the situation we are going to work with, and that's a critical competence. Then we have obviously to make it into a prompt. That's become easier and easier and easier. And I don't know how about you, but nowadays I'm spending most of my time, at least when I'm using ChatGPT, and it's like talking to the computer, right? I'm having a shortcut, and then I just babble and tell it, try to explain to it what I would like it to do. And then I'm using a piece of software called Whisper, but doesn't matter. Uh, so I talk to the computer. So making the prompt becomes it's important for sure, but it becomes easier because one thing is then you can just give it quite rigorous information due to the speaking abilities. But then as well, the models becomes better and better, selecting what it should focus upon. So you can give it a quite unstructured prompt, and then the AI or LLMs, they would transfer it and say, okay, this is the way I have to understand it by itself. So, but the critical thinking, critical perspectives upon defining the problem is important. Prompting, yeah, important, but easier. And then the real critical skills comes when we have to dissect and validate the output from the bot, because we have to validate and find out, is this true? Is it, yeah, true or false? And obviously it demands some skills. I guess I would call it easy skills because it's not that hard to find out, okay, this reference, is it existing? Or this number, is it correct? Right? So, but that's, or this, yeah, can I even find this link, which it's making for me as a reference? So that's the first thing I would do is try to validate the output. And then secondly, I would dissect it. And the dissection part is for sure harder because when you dissect it, you first start obviously read or see the output because it might be an image, it might be a design, it might be whatever. But you identify and understand the output, and then you dissect it. And the first element is to find out, okay, is it in fact answering my problem? So we'll go back and say, okay, if I dig into how I solve the problem, is it solving it? Is it going in the right direction? Because it might be that I have to reprompt, but I have to find out, okay, are we on the right track? Is it aligned with the problem definition? That's one thing. Uh, you know, feeding a bit back to my problem definition. And then there's the feeding forward loop as well, where I'm saying, okay, to which extent do it have the format? It might be if it's a physical design or visual design, it might be okay. How about the colors? How about the forms? It might be the problem definition was a chair. Then obviously the first dissection would be, is it a chair? Can I sit upon it? Yes, you can. So does it solve my problem? Yes, it does. But then I have to point it forward as well and say, okay, but there was more to it than just being a chair. It had to be a statement as well. It had to have some sort of DNA, whatever. So you dissect and find out, okay, is it basically pointing forward to what I would like to aim for? And if it's text, then obviously solve my problem, yes or no, but pointing forward as well. How about the tone of voice? How about the length? Does it fit into the format I would like? So there's tons of those capabilities, defining the problem, validating, dissecting the output. And that's for sure three of the critical skills we're trying to learn our students right now.
Thank you for bringing out this subject, René, because actually, what I noticed, a lot of marketers, for example, branders, whatever, business persons, they are like sharing on social media, making a statement. All that time that you spend on prompting, and doing all those prompts, you can just easily write by yourself, might be an article or an essay. Okay, but Then if we take it from that point of view, that dissection, you still have to do it while you're thinking, and because it's about the process, right? It's not that you are just you are enlightened constantly about anything what you're doing or you have to do in your life, each one of us. So I'm not criticizing nobody. I'm just saying that either way, if you use AI or not, you still have to think and dissect your thoughts, right? Ideas or whatever that might be, your part of creativity. So it's not a healthy way of thinking, just even stating something like that, because if you just try it one time and you became frustrated because you have had a friction using an AI tool, it doesn't mean that it's easy or it's hard. You just have to learn it. You just have to put the hands on it.
As with any tools, it doesn't matter whether it's a physical tool
Yeah.
or whether it's a digital tool. You have to understand its benefits and you have to understand its limitations, right? Uh, Typically, what I say to students and yeah, customers is that focus upon what it does well instead of focusing upon the limitations. And typically, I say, and obviously the figures are random, it's just the law of Pareto, that AI can bring you 80% of the way, but you have to fill in 20% of the effort by yourself. And as I said, the percentages is totally random. But the idea is that you can get quite a long way using AI, but you can't typically go all the way. You have to do some sort of, yeah, if I should, flamboyantly talk about it, you need to do some sort of co-creation
I
with the
agree.
AI bot, right?
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
need to interact, and then you need, for instance, if it's a text, when it's coming out to you, before you send it, you have to co-write it. But hopefully all the body is settled and it's just minor changes.
Mhm.
So it should hopefully still save you 80% time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, but not because I have to agree with you, Rene, because it's true. I'm using really quite a lot in my everyday life as well. AI, so many else AI tools in my work, in my job, in my everyday life, etc. So it is about that, as simple as it is, as you just mentioned. What skills will become more important, not less, because of AI, Rene?
For sure, the critical thinking skills. And one thing is developing things, right? As I said, validation, dissection, that's one thing. But another thing which I can see becomes extremely important in the future is being able to code what we read and see and experience,
Mhm.
because it can be AI manipulated, right? So it's all about democracy. It's the way we interact with each other. It's the way we watch news, whatever, right? So we really, really need to be aware of critical thinking. Can this really be true? And that's something where I can see as well that we are focusing a bit, not enough right now, but we are trying to focus a bit upon it. Um, Traditionally, we wouldn't say it's something which we need to teach the students because it's
Mhm.
something they already should know about. It's capabilities they which should be basically a part of them. But the AI scene are so exquisite. It's so it's really so highly skilled
Mhm.
that it takes high skills to understand it and think upon it. Yeah. So yeah. Basically, our students need to understand fake news.
Yeah, totally. Let's go forward with another section. You work also at the intersection of AI branding and strategy. How are these connected?
What I see now is that the line of business I'm in, the branding, marketing, the commercial side, is for sure booming, and they are adapting AI as I don't know what. It's really high paced implementation, and what I can see, for instance, is now that employees in the ad agency business, some of them, they are in fact, as you know, in Denmark, we are supposed to work in average 7.4 hours a day for 5 days a week. And that's accounting up to 37 hours. But nowadays, I see several examples of employees which is working approximately 40 hours a week, but they are invoicing at least 60 hours a week, because what they do is that while they are sitting working with the computers or with the computer, the laptop, then they're having this virtual, whether it's Perplexity, Claude Cowork, whatever, they're having this other computer running in the background, solving tasks where they multitask and go over to, yeah, let's say Perplexity, prompting a bit, making it work, going back to the main task. Yeah. So yeah, as far as I can see, then the branding and marketing businesses are really front runners when it comes to implementation of AI.
Mhm, mhm. So, how is AI changing the way brands communicate and creates value?
One thing, I like the word plastic. I like the
Mm.
word plastic, and you can fill it in before quite a lot of words. You could say plastic design. You could say plastic branding. You could say plastic learning. And whenever I say plastic, my understanding is that it's highly capable, but in the long run, it doesn't necessarily become sustainable. So, and you know, it is, uh, it's a bit fake as well. It's not hard. It's more actions, right? So, so what I fear basically is that we will see a growing tendency towards plastic branding, meaning
Mm.
branding which isn't genuine.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
it's so hard to make the heart appear in branding if it's the bot making it, right? So
Yeah.
so I'm not saying it's impossible, because it isn't, but it's really something which takes a skill set to do so. So basically what we should take care of is that we're not having all these tons, we're just boosting the amount of branding, but we are compromising upon the quality or upon the heart of the branding.
So, I would like, René, since you have talked about my passion branding, yeah, I would like to add also a small, tiny, important topic. Well, storytelling. Ooh, storytelling, it's branding in practice, right? Through storytelling, consumers can identify themselves with the brand values, which is very important. We can use some brand strategies like storytelling, for example, to explore how to communicate with consumers on an emotional level and build a deeper, longer term bond with them as well.
And branding is emotions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Branding is all about emotions.
Nowadays still it's very immensely used by key industry like entertainment, fashion, beauty, consumer tech, lifestyles. And I think that nowadays businesses still should invest much more because of AI in storytelling for cultural relevance. So by connecting with audience on an emotional level, as you just mentioned, to drive this long-term brand loyalty and affiliation. So using omni-channel marketing and trust media as a communication factor. And for example, using also the global circle from Simon Sinek as well, which is the why, the how, and the what, that helps you a lot. So it's a adding value on top of it. There are so many elements as a plus. Embracing them could be a huge advantage in branding.
And I think as well, when we are talking about transmedia branding, when we are talking about storytelling and so on, I think for sure AI can be of huge help, and it can still
Yeah.
add the 80% or whatever, right? But I, and it's not. I'm not religious by any means. Probably coming a bit from natural science, master in finance and so on. So I'm not that much about talk about soul and such. But still, there is something which makes things lovable, which makes them excellent, right? And because there's a difference between perfection and excellence, and I think it's very hard to make AI create excellence. They
I
might
agree.
create
Mhm.
perfection. They
Mhm.
might create the
Totally.
perfect resolution video, for instance,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
but it's not necessarily so that they are able to create the excellent video, because it's just lacking this, this, even though I don't believe upon soul and whatever, there's still this human touch.
Of course, but that's what it means, that emotional side, because we are energy, literally, even though we can accept it or not, it is about this. So it's also about hormones, right? Which is part of our biology. So again, obviously we can get emotional. You can get emotional because you just became a father, for example. So it's a big, huge emotion, right? So what humans can do, robots cannot, which means might be like for AI and vice versa. So of course there are still a lot of advantages that people might have nowadays, but we have to be aware and think about it, which are those. And it might be also very individual, personal. I might have something that you might not, and vice versa. So you should play as a coaching strategy on that, on your strength, aside, even as a person, but also as a business person as well. So also in marketing, branding, but that is all what it's about. It is about innovation. It's about progress. It is about so many other things, right? So you cannot just go towards something and against something just because you don't even know what it's about. As you just said earlier at the beginning of this podcast, Rene, and I absolutely agree with you. Let's get educated and let's get informed before we just cross a line under, without any other like literally reasons or the right information to do so. So what does authenticity mean at this point in a world where AI can generate almost everything, Rene?
It's so hard to to define in a nutshell, because in fact it's one of the topics I'm focused upon at the moment, and you can call it authenticity. I could call it creativity. There's quite a few topics around this soul aspect, which it is, right? But
No.
obviously not within natural science, coming from the body perspective, but from the financial perspective, a logical perspective. Then I still got the idea that the brain basically is made up by electrons and connections and or yeah, neurons and connections, whatever. So I'm I don't totally accept the term soul, but what I can see is that when we're looking upon outcome, there is authenticity. There is something about creativity, and um, it's something I'm trying to dig into, because if we as human beings, if we are products of whatever we've been experiencing in our lives, family wise, friend-wise, educational, job, whatsoever. If we are a product based upon who we have been growing up with, and then I know it's that it's inheritance and it's the DNA. The DNA, we can even show that, right? You can have a total map of the individual DNA. We might be able to replicate an upbringing. We could even perhaps, I'm not saying so because I'm talking about an area which I'm looking into, and it comes back to my understanding of plastic as well. That's the reason how come I'm interested in the term plastic, right? Because it might be that we are able to combine the DNA and our upbringing. Upbringing could be just trying to be specific. It might be that we even could upload our DNA chains, the structure, into the chatbot physically, right? Upload it. It might be that we have developed a personal brand book trying to define who you are, how you've been brought up, what you have been experiencing. But obviously, you can get a 100% match there, right? You probably can't have a 100% DNA representation either. I don't know. And still, when we upload it, then we don't get this true representation. So it's becoming a bit plastic. But it's just, I'm just trying to, giving a broad perspective upon. It's so hard creating authenticity.
I agree.
AI, right? Because this, it's, even though I don't believe upon a soul, I can see it's so hard to give a full description of who you are.
I
For
agree.
instance,
It's
right?
very
So
limited AI from that point of view. I agree. So again, I return to repeat myself. I apologize for that, but not because I'm saying it, because it's too important. I see too many persons still nowadays that they are with this misconception about AI in general still, which is kind of crazy to a certain degree. So it's, you have to play on your strength. AI doesn't have conscious, guys. So only a human have the conscious. So just I mean, as you just said, the soul as such, the emotional part. So actually, that can be a huge, huge advantage, even in your as a business, from a business perspective, which is much more like, you cannot just take it literally, just copy and paste something, because that was actually the second part that I wanted to mention earlier when I was talking, that when I was saying first that a lot of marketers, branders, etc., nowadays they are saying, oh, okay, all this time, long time on prompting, staying there and prompting and reprompting and try to figure it out, make it and understand, like the AI. The other part was that some of those who actually might say that they are experts into using AIs, mostly, I'm gonna say mostly, they're just copy and pasting. You don't have to copy and paste it. Where is your imprint? Where is your originality? Where is your authenticity? That's what I'm trying to say personally. What I'm into it. I'm using AI a lot in so many areas of my life and job, but I always, AI always has my touch. Always, there's always a piece of me into that final result. That's what I wanted to highlight, René.
look, it could be fun. Look, in front of me, I got a watch, and I don't know. It doesn't necessarily need to be attached to my computer through a cable, but it is. On the back of my watch, there's a sensor, right? And this is just a ordinary golf watch. But what if, because there's a biometric sensor on the back of it, right? It's basically for my pulse and temperature and so on, but it's not sophisticated at all. But what if this biometrical sensor became even more intelligent? I don't know if you've seen, we're having these fitness rings. This is a wedding ring though, but we're having these fitness rings which can monitor your health.
Yeah, I know.
What if we could find out, and I guess that's doable, find out about your emotions, whether you are happy, whether you are sad. And whenever I approach my computer, I've got my keyboard, which all it here,
Yeah.
got a fingerprint reader. Right?
Really?
So
Wow.
for my login, so basically I'm using it for my login. But what if when I'm prompting my ring or my watch or just my finger
Could
upon the keyboard
connect also, yeah, could connect.
connects, tell, informs the computer of my state of mind, right? What if, I'm just saying, right? What
Yeah.
if we'll see that in 2 years from now? It's doable. It's totally doable, right? Then suddenly the boundaries between you and the computer, the soul, your uniqueness becomes even more challenged, right?
Yeah, I agree. It is challenged, your uniqueness nowadays very much, but that's the whole point, and that's what I'm trying again. And again and again to explain in very simple ways, literally, to people that usually and literally it is, and this is science, guys. Again, when you're afraid of something or someone or a situation, or you're projecting towards future, that means that it didn't happen yet. So it's a fear inside you connected to a pattern from your past experience. As literally, this is science. So it's just, and another point is that I'm offering right now is because you don't know. That means you don't have you are ignorant in the sense that you don't have that knowledge, the right knowledge and informations to be informed about a certain tool, about AI in this case, how it's working, what it does or give to you or offer to you, etc. So again, it's an exploration of something that you don't know yet. It is about that from my perspective. So that's why you are afraid. Those persons are still afraid of.
Yeah, for sure. Ignorance has always caused fear.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So how can someone use AI without losing their own voice? We were talking about that, René.
I guess you still have to train your voice.
Mm.
Um, and we're when we're talking about AI, we are very much talking about cognitive offloading.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
basically the term is just covering that we are outsourcing thinking to the computer.
Yeah.
And if we continue outsourcing it to the computer, then we don't train ourselves, and then we become cognitive lazy,
Yeah.
become cognitive, perhaps even not only lazy, but poor
With some
performance.
deficiency as such,
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
don't
poor
use your own parts of
performance.
your brain. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cognitive poor performance, right?
Yeah.
So we need to train the brain, right? And
Yeah.
and then we're coming back to which is one of my, as you probably can recognize by now, one of my most important point of views is we have to focus upon critical thinking, right? So we have to constantly train our cognitive critical thinking capabilities.
I mean, Rene, we can still read books. Like it's not that you have to remove physical stuff from your life. AI is just have to be part of it, not all of it, all your life in that way.
Uh,
Just part of it. You just have to learn how to use it, when to use it, until what point, etc.
yeah, but that's sorry, easier said than done, right?
Well,
Because
for me, it is easy because I'm working very much on focusing on my identity, my personality, and who I am, and what I want to be, and how I want to be in the future.
but I guess we'll, at least that's my prediction or point of view, is that we'll
Mm,
see reading, we'll see reading capabilities,
mm.
we'll see reading volumes go down. And it's something which we already see by now. We can see
Yeah,
by medias uh, going from books, newspapers, social medias, and it becomes shorter and shorter because our attention span, yeah, is declining, right?
Yeah.
So it is really a challenge,
Yes.
and it could easily go into a political discussion of
Yeah. Yeah.
how we would accept social media to exploit our minds
Yeah.
and
But it's
wants.
already happening, like
Yeah.
listening, unfortunately. So, I mean, yeah, they're playing a lot on human dopamine to make it just one part of that manipulation. Just saying it. Many organizations invest in AI tools. You have also talked about it, René, earlier, but struggle with adoption. Why is that?
Um, I guess some of them are too ambitious,
I agree.
right? They would like AI to solve 100% instead of what
Yeah,
I'm claiming 80,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So they would like fully automated systems, which is totally making yeah, people redundant and so on. And I don't think we are there yet. It might be that we'll come there, but we're not there yet. So the aspirations might be higher than what's in fact doable, right? And to create systems, I'm um, it's easy if we're talking about minor implementations, use of AI bots and so on. Train the employees, done business. But it's more like if we would like to have this huge AI born system, then they become challenged because suddenly they find out that even those systems are working on an 80-20 basis. And if they try to omit the people pass aspect, then yeah, it's just not working, right? You can
yeah,
even see if we are dealing with, as I said, cancer discovery, right? Then
yeah,
what we'll see is that we scan whatever the breast, we find potential signs of cancer with the AI, but still it's being validated by a doctor, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
so that's a system which is working as far as I understand, excellent. But if we would like it to go all the way, then typically still we see too many errors.
I agree. Yeah. And
So
of course, that's the whole point. You cannot just 100% listen to what an AI say to you. I mean, it's like it's obviously you have to argue it towards the outputs and, prompting and reprompting, etc. Like someone listening wants to start using AI more intentionally. What is one simple step they can take today or this week, whatever, or in the future?
um, I think they should do two things. They should try to dig into how you prompt. Even though I said that it's not one of the prime capabilities, but
Mm-hmm.
still you should be able to learn a little bit about prompting.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason how come I previously didn't say it was the main focus is because I think that's easily done. The other aspects are more critical,
Mm-hmm.
but still you need
Thank
to
you for
know.
mentioning this,
Yeah,
Renee. Yeah.
but still you need to know about prompting, for sure. And then you need to see use scenarios, right? You need to see, okay, it's easy for me to say, okay, make an AI first approach because I know all the use scenarios. I know I can use it to answer emails. I know I can use it when I'm making lesson plans. I know I can use it when I'm making newsletters, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're new, you need to understand or see these use cases,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and it could be, for instance, I was teaching a SME company where we made small groups of colleagues, which on a regular basis, once a month, not often, but once a month, they should share use cases,
Okay.
right? So they could see, okay, and I know that's not my job, but then perhaps I could, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so the exchange of use case ideas is
Mhm.
important,
So it might,
and that's that,
in those cases, might give you actually because this is also about a different angle and point of view to look towards, isn't it, René?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's so simple. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
So,
So, René, if you could give one piece of advice to students, poor students, and future leaders about AI, learning, and value, because they are these three are so very important, creation, what it will be?
and I would say dig in, right?
Mm.
You need to dig into it, and you need to dig into it to a further extent than just using it prompting, right?
Mhm.
You need to dig into it from as well from this. Yeah, in my world, I would have this theoretical lens upon it, or this societal systemic point of view, saying, okay, what does AI do to my world? But you need to have this systemic view. What's it doing to the
This
company?
dialogue also
Yeah,
with
yeah,
yourself, yeah.
yeah. And I guess at least if I just by top of my head should say, okay, if we should try to create a systemic view, then obviously if I was working in a company, CEO, whatever, management position,
Mhm.
I would say, okay, what does it do for companies like us?
Mhm. Mhm.
What does it do to the society as a whole?
Mhm.
And what does it do to the consumers?
Oof.
Right? So I would have those three subsystems,
Mhm.
take them into consideration, and
Mhm.
say, okay, what's the influence upon companies? What's the influence upon societies? What's the influence upon consumers? And then try to find out, okay, how is the future landscape gonna look like?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I just love it. Thank you, René. René, we are at the end of this podcast episode. I really, really enjoyed this so very much. I didn't have any doubts that I will. Thank you so much for being here too with us today.
Welcome, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today for this conversation with René Larsen. If there is one thing to take away from our talk is that technology is never just about the tools. It's about the value we choose to create and the responsibility we carry as we lead into the future. If you want to connect with René, you can find him at blueoceanstrategy.dk. To stay connected and continue your own journey of rewiring, make sure to follow Rewire to Rise on Spotify and YouTube. You can also find more resources and guest updates on my link tree. Until next time, stay sharp.